Hey everybody, welcome to the interview on Badger Beer Report. I'm Chris Drosner, contributing member of Badger Beer Report, and we're breaking a little news today. Excited to have on with me today, um, Jake Schinker from co-owner and co-founder of Eagle Park Brewing and Distilling now. Jake, welcome to Badger Beer Report. Thanks for joining
Thanks.
us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're here to talk about a product launch for you guys. A diverse beverage company is getting a little bit more diverse with the launch of the solid state line of non-alcoholic beers. So I know this has been in the works for quite a while. Can you let's start with the why. I believe that's a one of these motivational type books. What is why non-alcoholic for Eagle Park?
Um, I think at this point, it's not a stigma anymore to drink NA beers. They're so prevalent in our culture now, especially in Wisconsin. I think was slow to adopt kind of this NA craze, slower than most markets for sure. Um, and it took us a while because we were working to make something that we were proud of and kind of lived up to the standards that we hold for all of our products.
Hmm.
And we weren't going to put something out until we were proud of it. And a lot of the NA beers we were trying weren't kind of fulfilling what we wanted to actually achieve. And that was
Hmm.
kind of a big reason of why we did this.
And yeah,
Go ahead.
so go ahead. I'm not
All
here to
you.
step on your toes here. You are the providing the good stuff here today. Um, so you're launching with four styles in this line. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so we tried to give kind of a diverse set of flavors that people would be familiar with if you're a craft beer fan. Um, Pale ale, hazy IPA, Mexican lager with lime, and a cran orange sour. So kind of
Hmm.
hitting on the major groups of craft beer drinker styles, um, and offering an NA option, something that you would be kind of familiar with and know what to expect if you've had Eagle Park beers. And I think we did a really good job achieving kind of this NA comp to what you can expect from alcoholic products.
Yeah, and these are not just to be kind of clear about this. These are not like NA versions of existing Eagle Park beers, right? This is
Correct.
this is a whole new deal.
Yeah, and that is intentional. When making an NA beer, the process is pretty complicated to get it to taste like a beer. And if you're trying to then even further make that taste like something that already exists and people know the flavor of, that standard is almost unattainable.
Hmm.
Even with an unlimited budget for equipment like all these big breweries have, like there's still a difference.
Yeah.
So rather than take that route, we wanted to just make any beers that tasted good in their own right, and they weren't trying to be something else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we made this spin-off line, and it is its own thing.
Yeah. Let's nerd out a little bit here. You kind of mentioned the process and and there's a lot of details here that I find really interesting. I A lot of the versions of kind of the new versions of any beers that we've seen over the past several years use de-alcoholization to get under the 0.5% ABV threshold that makes it NA beer. Um, can you explain first how like what that is, and then and why Eagle Park decided to go in a different direction? And my understanding is that you have kind of worked with fermentation and the recipes and all that stuff to get to the NA the NA benchmark, rather than brewing a beer and then de-alcoholizing it. So can you talk a little bit about, first of all, kind of where what that is, what the kind of prevailing industry trend, I guess, is, and why you guys decided not to do that?
Yeah, so dealcoholization, there is two main methods. One is membrane filtration, which is literally a very fine filter that strips out your alcohol, and you pass your beer through that. The second one is vacuum distillation, which puts your beer under a vacuum so it lowers that boiling point. So you're not recooking the beer, but the alcohol is able to distill off essentially.
Hmm.
Um, both those processes, the equipment to do them is insanely expensive.
Yes. This is
Um,
always the first thing I ask about when anybody's like, NA beer seems to be a really big thing right now. I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to get into it.
yeah. Um, both those, like I said, very expensive. And also, I think it's in my personal drinking experience, having these products that go through that process, there is a flavor change to it. Um, you're either, I mean, it is either filtration or heating in some form. There is going to be change to a product. And that's that in comparison to what the method that we've done is a engineered yeast that only makes that point less than 0.5% alcohol.
Hmm.
So we're still getting all of those characteristics you get from yeast fermentation that impart flavor on that beer. Whenever you've had like a NA beer that has, it still tastes kind of like just unfermented wort. It's a very specific taste that it kind of goes through a lot of the options on the market right now. And we have pretty much eliminated that entirely. I mean, you can speak to it as well. You've tasted them.
Hmm.
Um, that is the biggest thing we were trying to fight in our research process. Um, and then that in combination with using kind of like the latest and greatest in hop extracts and those kind of things, because when you're working with a beer that is so light and so low in gravity,
Hmm.
there you can't just throw in like a 1-to-1 ratio of what you would do in normal beer. It would
Yeah.
be a hoppy mess, or like there's not much backbone to fight whatever else you're putting into it. So
Yeah.
it's this very unique balancing act. And then we go as far as like the mouthfeel of these products, and we nerded about every aspect of the drinking experience to try and make it as close to real beer as possible.
Hmm. Is so the thing that you mentioned about fermentation really mattering and having an impact on the beer seems to be playing here in my like I am, yes, I'm drinking solid state beers right now. um how does that kind of like play into to what, or can you go into a little bit more detail about like the way that these are fermented? Like you said, there's a special yeast that basically just kind of kills itself at after a certain I'm thinking of like almost, I'm thinking of this almost like the opposite of like champagne yeast, which is bred to be really hardy. And uh, alcohol is a antiseptic. So when you get a high enough concentration of alcohol, it tends to kill off the yeast that's fermenting and creating that alcohol, which is why so many, which is why very very few beers get above like that 12-13% range, unless you're using champagne yeast, which can go higher. But like you really got to start doing weird stuff to get higher than that. Is this like basically the opposite of that, like a yeast that is super sensitive to its own byproduct?
Exactly.
That's
Um,
it. Yeah, I made it. Yay!
but
I passed. I
the
passed. I'm
way,
ready for. I'm ready for the Cicerone test. Here we go.
there you go. The way it does it is super interesting. So it's not just eating the same sugars as a normal brewer's yeast. They have engineered it so it only eats a certain type of sugar. So
Huh.
that it's basically, we're not arresting fermentation, which you can
Okay.
do by with a normal yeast just by chilling it down. It stops that yeast eating sugar and creating alcohol, but that creates weird flavors in beer.
Hmm.
Um, so rather than that, this yeast basically naturally runs out of food, stops creating alcohol at that low point.
Nice. Can you like I imagine that there is that this unique kind of you talked about mouthfeel and body, and that there's a lot of like and kind of the delicate balance of the whole thing. Uh, Can you kind of talk through how you kind of landed? I mean, I imagine the I know this beer these beers have been in R&D with the brewery for a while. I imagine that there's a lot of mess ups basically, to get to this point. Can you talk a little bit about how, the development process worked and what was testable and what wasn't, and how how taproom feedback played in? Because I know you put a lot of these out, right?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Um, so from the beginning, it's always been we've been comparing these to their alcoholic counterparts in as far as a standard.
Uh-huh.
So when we're chasing that level of mouthfeel or clarity, head retention, whatever we're going for, it is we're not saying it's good enough for NA. It should be good in its own right as a beer product. So
Hmm.
that was always kind of the standard we're working towards. And obviously, with NA being such a fast growing category, the amount of products that are out available to brewers nowadays, it's a very long list.
Hmm.
Some are better than others, and it's a lot of working with different suppliers to try and find those things that in the end create the product that we're going for. And we're proud to say that like everything we found in these beers is all 100% natural, and we're using real ingredients. Like the fruited sour you have, that's real fruit in there. Um, One of the big contributing factors of why we're able to do things like that is now we have a tunnel pasteurizer.
Mm.
So as far as making these products stable in that way, that's super important when you don't have that alcohol as far as like a consumer safety side of these things. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, without that level of acidity or alcohol or hop content, those are the things that make regular beer stable. So now we have this ability to do this the right way as well.
Mm. It, um, can you talk about the pasteurization? And I mean, basically that's a that's there's a factor there. Can you kind of explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, so we've had inline pasteurization as part of our program for a long time, but that only guaranteed that the product in our kegs was stable. That also was the same product that's going through the canning line, but as those cans go down the line, you know that the beer going into that can is stable, but you don't know if there's a tiny little something inside the can, or it's never a guarantee. So now we have a tunnel pasteurizer, which after those cans are sealed, they go through this long tunnel that's divided in, I believe, 5 sections, and you control that temperature, and it slowly ramps up. You kind of hold it at a temp, and you bring it back down.
Mm.
And it's a careful balance of you have to heat to a certain level to make the product stable and safe
Hmm.
without changing the flavor of it. So
Okay.
there's a whole nother process of diving that in as well.
Okay. It, th- there's um there's a pretty big brewery in Wisconsin here that does this for a lot of clients, including many of the NA, I think most of the craft NA beers that we see around here are made at. Maybe I shouldn't speculate, but without knowing, but I know that Octopi, now Asahi, or still Octopi, I guess, is in Wanakee, outside Madison, is a major player in the NA space. And um, why did you guys decide to go in this direction versus saying, well, we can, we could just do this at Octopi, or pick another contract brewer?
A lot of it is quality assurance. We know our equipment. We have invested heavily in putting in state of the art equipment to make sure we have the best beer possible.
Mm.
So the step for us to then outsource this new product line
Hmm.
just to say we have it wasn't the right step for us.
Hmm.
We instead made the choice take the time, really dive in, figure out how to do it, and reach the end goal we wanted, rather than rely on someone else to kind of just say like, "Oh, this is the product we're going for." They tell us how they're going to do it, and that's kind of all we have say over.
Nice. And I just for the audience who's watching here, um, I haven't had any of these beers before the last hour or so, and I've tried all four of them now, and so that reaction that you're seeing was genuine and not scripted or anything. Um, so how was there any kind of strat? I mean, like to me, Eagle Park beers definitely have a kind of um they have a personality, you know, hop tend to be hop forward. You know, if there's fruit in there, you're going to know there's fruit in there. You know, bold flavors, I guess you could say. And I, to say nothing of, I mean, you know, I have a lot of respect for all the lagers and kind of dad beers that you guys make that are near and dear to my my stylistic heart. But um, these do strike me as pretty, you know, like I don't know, a lot of those athletic beers are like, I don't know, I mentioned that because it's like the market leader, I believe, and you know they're pretty they play it pretty straight and pretty conservative. These hoppy beers strike me as like, yeah, like this kind of has an Eagle Park stamp on it. Can you kind of talk about like how you got to that point, and was, I mean, how fine tuning of the dial was happening in that strategy, and kind of ending up at point where you're like, yeah, these are Eagle Park beers.
The fine tuning level of that is insane. Um, we were nitpicking for a very long time. Uh, when you're dealing with like, if you were to strip out hops, fruit, everything from these beers, they're so insanely light. So
Mm-hmm.
that line of, we want to have a lot of flavor in this beer, and oh, this is too much, is very, very fine.
Yeah.
Um, Specifically when it comes to hop utilization. So if you push it any further than what it is currently, you're getting those green hop notes,
Mm-hmm.
that hop burn. Um, so it was kind of just finding different ways to build that flavor rather than just throwing a ton of hops at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's tons of hop drive extracts, and you can have even like just individual terpenes from each hop, and thiols from yeast production. So
So
like there's
breaking down basically the components of flavor and aroma from the whole cone hop, or the even the pellet, into like component, like it basically it's components, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
so you're getting those sensory components back in a very different way than you do in standard beer.
Huh.
Um, and a big component of that is the yeast itself. We use different yeast strains for these beers depending on the style.
Hmm.
But for the hoppier beers, they're creating these thiols that, and terpenes, like these compounds that are only found in hops. They genetically engineered yeast to spit off these compounds as they ferment. So you're actually creating those same flavors without any hop compound.
Mm,
It's fascinating,
that's
way above
wild
my
stuff.
pay
Yeah.
grade, but
Yeah. So I mean, does, I mean, like I was when you were talking, I kind of looked at the can, because I know a lot of your beers have list the hops and sometimes the malts, hops and malts for all. I'm not sure, but on the can, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's mentions. Okay, so the pale ale does have mentions it's with Citra and Simcoe, but I the oh yeah, Citron Mosaic. Okay, I miss it. So I mean, these are still recognizable. I mean, even with all the components and the kind of engineering, they are recognizable as these hop varieties.
yeah, that's very intentional.
Yeah.
Um, we didn't. You can make something taste generically hoppy Like
Hmm.
that's, but to actually have those hops still shine through, that was very important to us as far as what people know from us in our IPAs. Like
Hmm.
if you're a fan of a certain hop, it's going to taste like that if it says it on the can.
Hmm. Hmm. Uh, how, I mean, you kind of alluded to this, but how happy are you with how these turned out?
It has been this slow climb to finally get to a point of like, yes, everyone on the team is like, heck yeah, we're going to release these. They're awesome. And
Nice.
you knew it was like kind of this unspoken switch that our staff started grabbing cans of these out of the cooler for like their shifty at the end of the day. And as soon as that started happening, like the voluntary choice of like, I'm going to grab this product, we knew we were getting really close. And it was soon after that that we decided to take the jump and kind of split off this separate line.
Nice, nice. Um, are you going to be dialing these in still, or you feel like this is laminated, so to speak, the recipe card?
If anything, now kind of we've built this knowledge base of how to do these things. And that's why we have four different styles is we've worked to kind of refine our process for each one of those styles. And now it allows us to even expand upon that. As far as the ones that are in the lineup currently, we are 100% happy with them. And it's not like an R&D project anymore. Those
Hmm.
are finalized products. But I'm excited to, like with sours, work with different fruits and kind of offer more variety there, different hop profiles in the hazy and the pale ale. And we already have intentions of doing seasonal releases, and we'll see where it takes us.
Nice. I mean, that's got to be a fun new kind of creative outlet for the team. I imagine like it's I mean it's always fun playing with different new hops, and there's all kinds of stuff that's going on in beer all the time. But doing this in an entirely new kind of overlay with the NA and that like you said, that delicate balance and all the different levers that you guys can throw. I imagine that's been pretty fun for the team.
Oh, immensely.
Yeah.
Like you get to a point that like we do so many batches of beer over the course of a year, and it's all kind of either rebrewing old recipes or mild tweaks on a base recipe for making featuring new hops in a hazy IPA or something like that. This was we threw everything out and started from scratch pretty much. So it's been challenging, exciting, and pretty fun for everyone involved.
Hmm. Okay, where is this stuff? How can people get it?
Yeah, so we are going to be hitting store shelves here in the next couple of days here in the Milwaukee or greater Milwaukee area. So Ozaki County, Milwaukee County, Washington County, and Waukesha County.
Okay,
Starting there, and then throughout the year here, we're going to keep expanding our footprint for this line as well through the rest of our existing distribution.
cool. How has the initial reception been
Good.
at the distributor level, or any? I mean, or I suppose you said you shipped it just today, or
I think orders opened up today.
okay, okay.
So or bar you go to, depending on when their delivery day is, it might be there by the end of the week, but definitely by next week.
In time for dry January, at least most of it.
Most of it.
There you
That was the goal.
go. Very much. All right. Well, Jake, anything else to add about this? About the solid state beers from Eagle Park?
Yeah. If you can't find it near you, definitely ask for it. It is available. So your local bar or store can order it. Give them a try. Let us know what you think. It's we're really proud of them. We think it's a great way to still enjoy Eagle Park products, even if you're taking a dry January stint or just kind of want to drink beer at an occasion or have something beer flavored at an occasion that you shouldn't be drinking at. Um, Call it a weeknight home with the kids and just kind of want to relax a little bit. And this is an option for that. And that's kind of our goal at Eagle Park. We want to make something that is just enjoyable for people. We don't judge on how you want to do it. We're just going to make it taste good.
All right. Jake Schinker, co-owner of Eagle Park Brewing and Distilling. Thanks so much for joining us on Badger Beer Report.
Thanks for having me.